Welcome back. I'm here today with Jake Lipman, Lipman Wolf Insurance, also known as Visa Wolf. They're immigration attorneys here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Jake, welcome to today's show.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here with you, Alan.
Jake, give me your background, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I've been an attorney for 15 years here in California, and I think that I got interested in immigration partly by accident. I applied for a job when I was in law school to a local attorney here in the East Bay who had an immigration law practice going. He's now my business partner, and was surprised at what I found there. I'd expected one kind of a thing when I envisioned what immigration meant, and found something completely different.
Well, I hear about immigration in the news. How does an immigration attorney, help people?
Well, that's a good question. I think of the name of your show here, American Dreams, right? And that seems to be what I'm doing just about every day, is helping somebody obtain their American dream. A big part of what we do is connect individuals with employers, since our law firm is quite a bit about employment-based immigration and people coming for jobs that are needed here in the U.S., skills that are needed and their talents. And so these are very qualified individuals largely that I work with who bring something to the table in the U.S. that we just can't seem to produce enough of domestically. So I help these individuals to make their mark and to make a name for themselves and get established in the United States and to fulfill that dream.
Now, typically when a person comes over and uses your service, is it the employee or the employer? The person immigrating, or who signs up to? So
our client is typically the employer. In some cases, an employee will reach out to us, but in most companies that have any established kind of regular immigration work, we work directly with the employers, and they'll contact us to start a project when they need some new employee to come on board that has an immigration issue.
Does it matter what country they're coming from when you're doing immigration? Is there favoritism towards some countries?
I'd say yes. For the most part, it's kind of a level playing field, but there are a few countries that enjoy more immigration options than others, just because of mostly free trade agreements and things like that exist with certain countries. And you would be surprised which ones enjoy those benefits, because it doesn't follow any kind of logic necessarily.
Give me an example of something that's...
Well, for example, there are free trade agreements with Iran, but not with like New Zealand, that are just kind of things that don't really make sense necessarily based on what you know politically. But historically, U.S. had good relations with Iran back when the Shah was there and all those kinds of things. So it kind of stems from historic relations that have existed in some cases from the very beginning of our country's existence.
And what's the current economic climate for a person wanting to immigrate into this country with an H-1B visa?
So H-1B visas are limited by number each year. So a new H-1B visa can only be obtained in a fiscal year starting April 1st. We file for those, and the worker might begin October 1st if they're going to be part of the H-1B quota for that year. Last year, there were over, I believe, 120,000 H-1B petitions filed for new workers, and only 65,000 are permitted. With an additional 20,000 they allotted for people who obtained a master's or higher degree here in the U.S. So 85,000 total, but 120,000 were requested. So several people were rejected in that process.
So it's not an automatic.
There's no automatic there, and it's really frustrating for employers who need those critical skilled individuals to come and can't make that happen within a year even.
You got any good rewarding case stories that people you were able to get through?
Man, that is every day we're having a rewarding story. I'd say coming to mind, there's usually there's usually a specific need, and I'm trying to think of one right now that would be of interest to you, but.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me. We're running up against the break,
Okay.
and we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back at these messages, and when we come back, I want to talk about, what the current state of politics and how that's affecting the immigration policies today.
Sounds great.
We'll be right back after these messages.
With current laws, we have left our children an enormous financial burden. Even though they may be too young to understand it. At GROCO, we care about you and the ones you love, and the quality of your and their lives. Call us today to see how we can help. 877-CPA-2006.
GROCO, helping you along the way.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Jake Lipman, Visa Wolf, immigration attorney. And Jake, before the break, I was asking you about the most rewarding case. While there are many out there, does any one case come to mind about someone that you were able to get through? And
Well, I'm helping an individual right now, and this is not from the employment side, but occasionally we work with individuals who have more specific kind of urgent problems. And this individual is from India, and his family is part of a class that is sometimes persecuted there. And so his parents were allowed to come into the country, and because of his father's military background, they were granted political asylum. And the problems that had existed prior to his leaving the country. So the son, was not included in their asylum application, but is now subsequently applying. And I have a meeting tomorrow in the immigration court to go and see if we can kind of resolve this issue for him and get him included in his parents' asylum application. He's under 21 and still a dependent under their responsibility. So that should work out okay. But that's something that just comes to mind fresh, and something that I feel, again, we're talking about those dreams and helping this individual to secure a safe harbor here in the U.S., protected from the kinds of intolerance and problems that his type of people are facing in their home country. So
and I will note also for the listeners out there that our firm GROCO uses your services.
Oh, thank you.
And we've had very good results.
I appreciate that.
I want to go into immigration reform. We hear that this is a politically charged phrase at the moment, and cutting through partisan politics. Where do we stand at this very moment on immigration reform?
So my feeling is that immigration reform is alive and well still. There have been some startups and some kind of stall outs and things here. The Congress has been on recess for the summer. They take a break. Some people do take a break during the summer, so I'm told. But anyway, they've come back. They're in session. They're discussing, and the various parties are at work on trying to reach some kind of an agreement still on immigration reform. And I expect something will come out of that will be some type of reform. What it looks like, hard to say, and we can talk more about that if you like.
Well, now, do you have an opinion what should be done? Are you middle of the road, or do you swing right or left, or where do we?
So I don't know that
go?
Immigration for me is not a right or a left issue. I'm generally a pretty conservative person, I think, by comparison to others. But I don't see that immigration falls into a right or left kind of a spectrum. I think it is something that, depending on where you sit personally, you have an opinion about it. Clearly, as a business owner and an immigration professional, I care that this would pass. It would be a benefit to me in that way. But I can also see just from my own view of the economy and how things work and what I've seen with immigration and how it changes not just lives, but how it improves the opportunities that exist out there for people to grow new companies and create new jobs. I think it's something that would benefit our economy. And again, from that kind of conservative standpoint, to me, fiscally in that way, that I ultimately look at the economy as one of the major factors of. It's not just a touchy-feely thing that I want to give a benefit to somebody because that's what we should do, but I think it would really benefit our country and help the help the overall economy.
I'm visiting here today with Jake Lipman. He's an immigration attorney with Lipman Wolf, also known as Visa Wolf Attorneys here in the Bay Area. And Jake, we need to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.
He's the world's most trustworthy man. Tax filing deadlines are scheduled around his vacation calendar. The IRS agent who audited his client apologized.
I don't always advise people on their taxes, but when I do, I save them every penny legally possible.
GROCO CPAs and Advisors.
Come to GROCO and stay wealthy, my friend.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Jake Lipman. He's an immigration attorney with Lipman Wolf, also known as Visa Wolf Attorneys, located in the San Francisco Bay Area. And you have another office out of
San Luis Obispo.
San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, my
Okay.
business partner's working from San Luis Obispo, and it's a beautiful place. He's he's from down there, so it's working out real nicely, and is expanding our offering a bit. So.
Yeah, and I guess, when you go through the immigration process, everything is automated to the same office. And, who issues these visas?
The Department of Homeland Security will authorize most of the visa processes that happen through the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, which is USCIS. And then we work also with Department of State, who operate the consulates around the world where people actually go and apply for the visas once they've been approved by the Immigration Service here in the U.S. And then we sometimes work with Department of Labor. They have a section that is focused on foreign labor, and so we touch that too.
Is there a tie between our education system and the immigration policies today?
I would say definitely, especially at the highest level, at the university level. I've heard statistics that maybe half of the PhD candidates that are out there right now are foreign students, which obviously it has a tremendous impact on the research and the types of associate professor positions and other types of opportunities that exist within education. So, and this is especially true in the math and science and technology areas. So. Foreign presence in the educational system is a huge deal right now.
A student coming out of school oftentimes will want to hang around the U.S., look for a job. So just outline, what are the rules? What can they do as a foreign student coming to the country?
Okay. So most degree programs, when the student completes it, if they're from outside the U.S., they will get a 1-year optional practical training program, and that lets them work within their discipline for a year, up to a year typically. If they're from a science, technology, mathematics, engineering background, they call STEM. That's kind of their acronym for those types of focuses. Then they can get an additional 17 months to work in the U.S. and to develop their skills and maybe find an opportunity here. Like we talked about earlier, the H-1B visas and their limitations, the numbers that are offered each year present that kind of problem that even if they do get a degree, there's a chance they may not be able to secure that long-term position because the visas aren't available.
Yeah, have you noticed a lot of people going the other direction? For example, I hear with India's economy booming, a lot of people that were immigrating are now saying, hey, we're going to go back.
Absolutely. People here that had struggled to come and establish themselves, seeing the opportunities in their home countries and the wages being roughly equivalent in at least the higher level jobs, and even more opportunities in some cases because, like you said, the economy is booming and the demand for jobs in places like India, specifically in cities like Bangalore, is like Silicon Valley here in the late 1990s.
Jake, there's a lot of people that are immigrating in, and they get their H-1B visa, and then they go back and say, now I want a green card. What exactly is the green card, and how difficult are they to obtain? What benchmarks do they need to meet?
That's a great question. So a green card is a permanent residency in the United States. It's a visa to remain here as a resident, which means you have to continue to reside most of your time in the U.S. and abide by the laws and be a good person and things like that to maintain it. You can obtain a green card through employment through a 3-step process. And the first step is to get a clearance from the U.S. Department of Labor. The employer needs to show that they tried to find a U.S. worker that would have been qualified to do that job, but they didn't find any in the local economy. And that somebody else, a foreign individual, a candidate that they have found, appears to meet those qualifications and is available. That process usually takes about 6 months to clear. Maybe a little more. It can take more in some cases, but that's probably average. The next step is an immigrant visa petition, and that's where the employer has to show that they can afford to pay this individual, the foreign worker, at a level that is commensurate with what you would pay a U.S. worker, and that they have the resources to do that, the funds. And then you also need to show that the candidate really has the credentials and is qualified to do that job at that point, and document all of those qualifications. So that's step 2. Now, between step 2 and step 3 is usually a long lag, because there are quotas in the number of green cards given for employment each year. And so the higher the skill level, typically you'll see people who maybe their job requires a master's degree. They come in at a faster rate than the people whose jobs require less than a master's degree, and so on through there's a spectrum of jobs and qualifications. So the final step in some cases will not be allowed until the individual has reached the top of a waiting list to get a visa number through the quota system. And that can sometimes take 10 years or more. I have clients that, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have people that are just now reaching the top of a waiting list that I've been working with for like a decade.
Is there any way people can jump to the front of the line?
Not really. There's no way to expedite it. They've just got to take a seat and wait. And sometimes they're tied to that employer for multiple years like this while they're waiting for the process to go through. The government has created some opportunities to port their green card process if they've reached a certain stage in the third and final step of the process. But for those people who just started steps 1 and 2, it can be a long road and quite a long wait for them as they wait for their green card.
Jake, we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages. And I'd like to get in talking about this EB-5, the immigrant visa, or the investor visas, if hot topic right now. We'll be right back after these messages.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Jake Lipman. We've been talking about immigration law. And, before the break, I mentioned that we want to get into this EB-5, which talks about the immigrant investors. Hot topic right now. People coming and establishing opportunities for people to get into the country. Now, what is it about? First, outline what EB-5 is, and then how people get involved with it.
EB-5 is essentially an immigrant visa opportunity. So the person would get a green card at the end of that opportunity by investing $1 million in the United States in some company where they create 10 jobs as a result of that investment. There's also an option for a $500,000 investment if the company exists in a certain kind of economically challenged region of the U.S., or if they are investing in something called a regional center, which is an immigration-approved, kind of pre-qualified investment where they can actually don't have to create 10 real jobs, but indirect jobs through the economy as economists go around figuring how the jobs are created.
With the $1 million, is that just for them, or do they get other people with it?
Their whole family, up to children 21 or under 21, spouse and children.
Okay, unlimited kids?
Yeah, unlimited. Yeah, exactly. Big families are welcome.
Well, that's a nice feature, I guess, giving an opportunity. I guess what it's doing essentially is it's creating jobs here. They have to have 10 employees or so?
Yeah, they're going to create 10 jobs. My business partner has a regional center that he's established called the Golden Pacific Ventures, and it's essentially an agricultural project on the island of the Big Island of Hawaii, where he establishes farms for individual investors and manages those farms. It's a $500,000 investment. So we've already seen a lot of traction with that and people coming and a lot of interest, especially from the Asian countries where the economy is doing so well.
What are they growing down there?
That's a coffee plantation.
Really?
Yeah, so he'll establish a coffee plantation and manage it for the investor, and we do the immigration work for the investors to help them get through the process.
So a person wanting to start in on this, they just contact you by internet or email or phone, or how do they reach you there?
Yeah, you can reach us by phone. 925-771-8181 is an easy way to reach. Our website is visawolf.com. Visa like the immigration visa, and wolf like the animal, no E on the end.
Now, going back on this EB-5, what's the time frame a person starts in for the immigrant investor? So is it just a matter of them having $1 million and they say, I just bought a farm and we're ready to roll? Or what?
They need to show the source of the funds, so the money can't come from some kind of illegal source. Okay. But if they have $1 million and they invest in a legitimate business in the U.S. or $500,000 in certain cases that can qualify, then they will get a green card. It usually takes about a year.
Now, after the green card, how long do they have to keep the business open for?
Well, that's a good question. So typically there's a 2-year period that it is a conditional green card. And after the 2 years, they need to come back and show that their business has created the 10 jobs and that it's still it's in some sort of active status. And then they will get a permanent green card at that point.
So it's typically from the day it's issued, 2 years conditional and permanent.
Yeah, and they can become a citizen after being a resident for 5 years total.
Wow, it sounds like I know it's a hot growing area here. A lot of people wanting to get in. It's an easy way to get in if they have the money to do so.
That's right. It's a great option, especially for those wealthier individuals that may want some kind of security plan if they're coming from a country where they're not so sure about how the future might play out.
Yeah, I've been visiting here today with Jake Lipman. He's a Visa Wolf immigration attorney. So to contact him, it's you can get to his website at visawolf, visawolf.com. And Jake, it's been a pleasure having you on today's show.
Appreciate it, Alan. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being with us here on America Dreams. Join us again next week right here on AM 1220 KDOW.